You are now listening to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. We preserve the history and sport of hunting through curious conversation and action-packed hunts, as well as offering you tips and strategy for more successful hunts. The Hunter's Advantage podcast is powered by Out on a Limb Manufacturing. Out on a Limb is a family-owned company based right here in Oklahoma that makes tree stands, saddle platforms, climbing sticks, and so much more.
Christian, I have a quick question.
What's that?
What bites down harder, a hippo or an alligator?
No idea.
It's a trick question. The Ridge Runner 2.0 bites harder than both of them. But all jokes aside, we use these products all across the land on public or private. These help us get into any tree we want and hunt where the deer actually are.
Most men go to the grocery store for their meat, but these products help you go to God's grocery store. I have used the Out on a Limb Ridge Runner 2.0 and the Shakar sticks for the last few years hunting public land bucks, and I've actually shot several bucks out of this setup. If you want to support the podcast and get some Out on a Limb equipment, make sure to go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 for 10% off at checkout. Once again, if you want to support the podcast, go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA10 at checkout for 10% off. Now let's get back to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast. Today I'm joined by Goon 1 and Goon 2, Jake Gaylord and Payton Carroll. How's it going, guys?
Tank Carroll.
I love when you say the tank thing, because then when you flex, your arms don't move. I'm like, that's
because I'm always flexing. People can't tell.
Yeah, well, if you listen to the last episode, we're still kind of segueing off that opening weekend of deer season that we had a little over a week ago. But Carol, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. And some people love memory lane. Sometimes she's cold-hearted. But let's in the last episode, we talked about the buck that I shot. We talked about the hunt that you and I went on, and I filmed you. On the second day of season, Carol decided to kind of pull a little bit of an audible and go rogue. So talk a little bit about what happened on the first day of the season. Bow hunting, by the way, this is a hunt talk episode where we just ramble on about hunts that we've recently had and recapping. So appreciate you guys listening to these. These are probably one of our favorites to record. But Carol, day one, we go out and hunt. What do we see, and what kind of changed your mind, and what was your plan going into day two of hunting season?
Well, first day, like I said, we saw a little buck. Or first morning, I saw a little buck that was standing at about 10 to 15 yards. But early morning, I get on because I'm really notorious of what's going on at the other stand. While I'm at this stand, I get on and I see that there's a shooter at the other stand. I'm like,
like a 130s deer that we had never seen before.
Yeah, I think he's a decent one. I mean, I think he's like an 11 or 12 point. So he's not real wide, but he's a decent deer. I was like, man, I want to go get a look at him. We've had a ton of success on the cameras on our north stand. We made a switch, taking it from the south to no deer, not a single buck on camera last year, to a whole bunch of deer.
Well, there was basically a bedding area a few hundred yards away that we had never even pushed up close to hunt. And we're like, hey, we're not getting any pictures here on the south. Let's move this feeder up there and like our cameras and see what we could have. And like that area produced this summer.
Yes.
Produced.
It did. So after the first day, I thought, well, the feeder hadn't been working on the south, on our south side. So I figured, well, the feeder is working up on the north because we're getting pictures, there's always doe and all of that. So I figured, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to go up to the north stand. We have a southeast wind. It was a little more east that morning than south. And so I thought this is going to be perfect. Like this is going to work. So I decided to go up there, and it was a little further of a walk to get to that stand than I remembered. And it's not just like dirt, it's sand. Like this is actual sand. So like it takes a toll on your calves, and my had some shin splints going before I even got there. I was like, man, I need to lose a little more weight walking out here. But anyways, we go up there. The thing about this stand is there are no trees that are very good within 40 yards of
Well,
the
similar to
feeder.
what we talked about in the last episode, is like this place is full of elms and they do not grow straight and they do not grow tall. They grow out and like a mushroom. And like,
Yeah.
so if you want to get in one of them, it's like you better bring your freaking saw and you better be ready to like be leaning way off of it because it's like leaning into you.
So I finally get close up there and I'm like, all right, I have a choice to make. I can be 20 yards away from the feeder. A southeast wind may work. I don't know. Or I've got a tree right here that is exactly 40 yards away from the feeder. It will work. I can probably get like 8 foot up, far enough away that they're not going to wind me as far as a south or southeast wind, and I'm far enough away that I could probably do a little moving around if I needed to get a little more situated. So I decided to go with that bigger tree that's a little further away. I was going to take the morning and really more of a scout morning of like, hey, let's see what comes in. If they pass by me, great. If not, that's okay. We'll know what to do next time with this wind and kind of see where they're coming from. So it took me a little while to get set up because I hadn't used, our saddle in a little while, or the saddle system. So it took me a little while to
You
get
borrowed all of my stuff.
Yeah, well, everything got taken from mine. So I have,
Your
I have my
sticks, right?
saddle, yeah, my sticks, and pretty much like what I needed to get in the tree. Let me tell you, I had to climb down to grab my bow because I don't have a string, remember? So I had to get everything set up, climb my bow with one, or climb it up with my bow in my hand on one. I'm not that tall or high off the ground, so it wasn't too bad.
Or tall.
Just taller than Jake, but that's all that matters.
You sure about that?
So I finally get set up, and right off the bat, I mean, as soon as I see a deer stand up out of the bedding, and I'm like, okay, here we go. This deer's like, it's probably like 120, 130 yards away from me, close to 100 yards away from the feeder.
Is that the first time you've ever seen a deer stand up out of its bed?
It is. It is the first time that I was like, there was a deer right there. I actually just stood up, and I was more loud. I wasn't super loud, but I was more loud that second morning, getting set up.
New spot, hang and hunt. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I see another deer stand up. I'm like, he has a rack, and he has a big rack. I don't know what deer this is because I just don't have I don't have binos. I don't have anything with me. I got my rangefinder. I can see a little better in my rangefinder, in those low light situations, but still I'm out there trying to look for them in the rangefinder, try to find them. And I'm like, I don't have the magnification I need for this. And it's still pretty dark.
What do you mean? I literally scouted for pronghorn using only a rangefinder, so I don't want to hear it.
And we killed nothing.
So I see this deer stand up, and I knew by its body, like, okay, he's not young. I can see his rack enough to know, okay, he's got a good rack. I just don't know how old or what deer this is. So finally, he was pretty smart because he was with two doe. They walked to the feeder, and he sat there and watched them walk to the feeder. So at this point, I'm getting my stuff ready, getting my bow in my hand and all that. And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot until I know which deer it is. I don't want to shoot, when it's this low light. I don't want to shoot like a 3.5-year-old 120-inch deer. I don't want to do that. So of course, when he gets to the camera, I'm like, it's Mr. Next Year. Cause I'm looking at the trail camera photos while he was there. I'm like, it's Mr. Next Year. It's
so
him.
Wait, you couldn't see yet. And so you were literally on your phone looking at the trail cam pictures of what's 40 yards in front of you.
They're going to use Carroll's testimony to ban cell cameras.
That's what I'm saying.
So, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't know I wasn't going to fling an arrow unless I knew what I was looking at.
Right.
And so finally I was like, okay, it's him. I'm going to I'm going to wait for it to light up a little more. At this time I can't shoot. I'm legal. I can shoot, but I'm like,
he's also 40 yards away, right?
Yeah. He's 40 yards away. And so I'm like, I'm going to give it a little time. And I'm just not going to take this shot yet. So finally it's light. It's light enough. A few minutes go by. He's not there for long, but he's long enough where I'm like, okay, it's perfectly fine to shoot.
I got a question. I'm sorry to interrupt, but so like as you're looking at him, like because it's too dark, so you're looking at him through the trail camera, through your phone. Are you not worried about like the brightness of the phone screen at this point?
I'm 40 yards away. I got the thing turned all the way down. I wasn't just sitting there playing on my phone. I pull it out,
Right.
scroll it, see like, okay, he's a mature deer. That's all I need to
Mhm.
know. Put it away. And it's not like pitch dark. Don't get me wrong. It's still like I'm 5 minutes past shooting light. Right
Right.
to shoot. But it's still dark enough where I'm like, I don't know exactly what I'm looking at because we have a list of shooters. We have a list of don't shoot. So I'm trying to figure out, hey, what is this buck? So finally, I'm getting to where situated where I can take the shot, get my bow in my hand. I'm like, all right, when he goes to turn broadside is when I'm going to shoot. So he's up there, he's feeding, and I hear some crunching down to my right, and I look. I'm only 8 foot off the ground. I have a doe that's probably 4 yards away from me, underneath my tree. Yeah, I mean, just sitting there, just I look a little back, and she's got another one. I have like 3 or 4 doe all within 10 yards of me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't pull back right now, or these deer are gonna scatter and blow. So I wait for them to pass. I finally realize, hey, it's go time. And as soon as I pull my bow back, Mr. Next Year puts his head up, starts walking off. I'm like, all right, he's quartering away, but he's not quartering away too hard. I'm gonna shoot him. I'm gonna shoot him. So then he's still walking. I'm like, I don't want to stop this deer. Now I don't know how far he is because he was at 40. Now he might be 45. I haven't ranged him. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
tough.
no, I'm not shooting. So I go to draw the bow back down. I have a doe I realized I had another doe on my other side that I didn't see about 5 yards away. Pull the bow jerks back down. She's watching me the whole time. Just watches me. Starts licking her lips, just turns around and walks off. And I was like, "Oh my god, this doe
You just got to
didn't run off, didn't blow, nothing." And I was like, "What just happened?" At this point, I'm chuckling. I'm a little upset, but I'm like, "What just happened? I've never seen anything like this before." So I saw him go down, and how it works is there's a few ravines where we're hunting, and he walks down into this ravine, and he looks like he was heading left, which is back towards me. He's heading back south towards me. So I was like, all right. So I start getting my stuff situated again. I'm like, he's going to come. He's going to get downwind of me, but I'm going to have a shot here. I'm going to have a shot. So I finally see his rack start popping up over this ravine. The ravine is parallel with me, but the hill kind of varies lower and gets to where I can see him to shoot him. And he is behind one branch of the tree that I'm on. A branch hangs right down right in front of me low. And I'm like, he needs to take 2 steps. 1 step might do it. 2 steps is for sure. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. I'm like, I have our biggest deer. This is exactly what I want. I range him. He's at 35 yards. I can't see his vitals yet because of the grass. I have a shot at his vitals, but the grass are kind of covering it a little bit because this grass is pretty tall down there.
It's like 10-foot tall Johnson grass. Carroll, describe. People have probably seen the picture of him or the video. How big is this deer once you finally see him in person?
He's big. I mean, he's not like oh my god, his frame is so big, but the width is the only thing. He's not super wide. He's probably like 15, 16 inches wide, but he's got okay mass. His tine length is very good. And he's a big deer. I was going to shoot him.
Like 150 incher, you think?
Yeah, I think he'll break 150. I truly do.
Mr. Next Year?
Yeah. I think he'll break 150. Just that tine length is.
He's got insane tine length.
Is
like 4 tines over 10 inches.
Yeah. Very good. And so I'm waiting for him to take that step. I sit there for like 2 or 3 minutes. And of course, at this point, I'm like, all right, I don't normally get nervous, but my heart starts to pound.
I was about to ask, like, seeing a 150-inch deer for more than 10 seconds.
When it happens fast, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But when he's slow rolling and playing around, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm starting to get a little nervous now.
Were you holding your bow at this point still?
Yeah, I'm holding my bow.
Dude, that arrow would have been like just rattling.
Yeah, I started to get fairly nervous. So I'm waiting for him to take 1 or 2 more steps just to get out. He's closer than he was. He's broadside. Everything looks good. Well, here comes another deer from the opposite way, parallel, walking with him, the opposite way, parallel of him. He comes out of the brush and he's walking real slow. And Unfortunately, Mr. Next Year just decides to turn around and walk away with him. So never got the shot, never got to see, really anything. And I called Christian. I was like, dude, you ain't gonna believe this. You're not gonna believe this. I saw him. And then I was like, all right, well, I think I'm about to get down. Like this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see if this spot was huntable. Really, just like, yeah, I'll be back another weekend. I'll try to get set up a little closer to the feeder. I was like, I'm gonna give it till 9. We'll see. We'll see what comes out. Well, about 15 minutes later, I see another deer coming down and he's got a big rack. I'm like, he's coming back. He's coming back. And so I looked through my rangefinder. I'm like, that's not him. That's Paddles. It's a total different deer. And he is 100% a shooter. Like, oh, I saw a double neck patch. I was like, oh my gosh, it's him. No questions asked. And here he comes. And he just sat there. We got pretty good video footage of him just messing around with some trees and just taking his sweet time. But I'm like, well, hopefully he comes to the feeder. I'm really hoping he comes to the feeder. So he took his sweet time and he went down in that ravine. I'm like, anytime now I'm gonna see that rack pop up and it's go time. I got the camera there, I've got my bow in my hand, and I'm ready to go. So I see his rack pop up. He's heading to the feeder, and I thought, all right, everything looks good. But before I get into a little more, I'm gonna explain Paddles. Paddles is what do you think, Christian? He's probably 4.5, 5.5.
I think he's 5.5-year-old deer. He's a big deer.
I think he's a 5.5-year-old deer. He's got an awesome frame. I mean, his frame is.
He's framing. Not only is he pretty wide, his frame does what you want a deer's to do. It goes like out. The beams go out. Like it's like they're running away from each other. I don't know. The beams aren't like wrapping around. I mean, they probably under 20, but they're long. Yeah, he's a 19. Good deer.
Yeah. I mean, he might not break 140s as an 8, but he's close. He's
that's a big
close.
8. Anything over 130 for an 8 is ridiculous.
Like his 2s and 3s are like good. They're very good and respectable, but his eye guards are like world class. Like they're like 7 apiece. Like, and one of them is like a little like curvy dagger. And what was cool about him in the summer is he had like a drop tine in the summer, probably a 2-inch drop tine, and he had a little turkey foot on there where he had like triple little drops right there, and then he has kickers coming off the bases. I think he broke off that little drop tine, but
I think he did.
He's a cool freaking deer. Like if somebody shot that one as an 8, they're like, that's the biggest 8 I'm going to shoot.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it was. And he finally gets up to the feeder, and he's pretty hard quartered away. And I thought, okay, this shot's very doable. I can do it. I've been shooting lights out practicing wise. I'm spot on. I can take this shot. I'm 100% confident that if I pull this trigger, I can kill him like this. So I thought about it for a little bit, and he sat there like that for a little bit. So I drew my bow back, put it on where I thought it needed to be. And as soon as I pulled that trigger, you know how you have that instant regret when you pull that trigger sometimes? You're just like, I should have waited. And when that arrow was on its way, I remember telling myself, you can hear it in the video footage, horrible shot. I just kept telling myself, horrible shot. Hits him right in the butt cheek. I mean, right in the butt cheek. And how I saw it at first, I'm going to explain how I saw it and then how it really happened. I saw him run away with an arrow hanging out of his butt cheek. And I'm in a panic. You're not very optimistic after you shoot a deer. You're like, oh, where did the shot go? How did it go? I don't know. And so I watch him run back to my east. He stayed there for about a minute or two. And I see him circle back around to the north of me. And he's about, I want to say anywhere from 70 to 100 yards. I don't know how far. I have no idea. I mean, Christian, we saw the tree that he walked by. It's a far shot.
Probably like 80 plus probably.
Yeah. And so part of me is like, get another arrow in him. And then I remembered, hey, my arrow is 585 grain. I've only got 70 yards of clearance. And that's if I turn my broadhead sideways and everything's perfect, So he wasn't there long enough for me to re-rack an arrow. I didn't have a clear shot, anything like that. And he was walking not super slow, but slow enough where I'm like, oh, he's hurting. The arrow's still in him. It's still got 20 inches of arrow in him.
Talk
like
about the angle though, because
Yeah,
people
that's
are going to
exactly
say you
what
hit a deer in the butt. How can you hit a deer in the butt broadside like that?
that's what I was just about to say. Is he was pretty hard quartered away. Of the shot was doable. I would say I was 2 to 3 inches away from it being picture perfect. And unfortunately, with that angle that I took, that 2 or 3 inches costed me.
Mhm.
It was, like I said, not more in the hip than I think the butt cheek. It was just right between, I guess, the butt cheek and the hip. But yeah, it was a good angle to hit there. Unfortunately, there's just a bad spot. The angle after we look at the footage, which I'll get into, made me feel a lot better after it. But anyways, he goes down in this ravine and he's walking pretty slow, and I'm like, he's gonna go down, he's gonna bed there, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't know if he's gonna die or not, because I was not optimistic because I saw that arrow hanging out. I was like, he could, if he's going to, that's where he's gonna go.
But you also thought you seen blood, right?
I thought that I saw blood, but it turned out it was dust that he kicked
Mhm.
up. But anyways, right off the bat, I called Christian. I'm like, dude, I shot paddles. It doesn't look good. I think I only got like 6 to 8 inches of arrow penetration. I don't know though. I don't know. And he's
Which
like, slow down.
I was like, even to me, like he's like, I hit him in the butt or the hip or something, and I was like, just the single bevel broadhead and an arrow that heavy. I was like, there's no way, dude. You could hit a cinder block and get more than 6 inches of penetration. Like, there's no way you got 6 inches of penetration. I was like, just come back, bring me the footage, because the footage never lies. And when you look at the footage on a little bitty screen, you can never tell. Like, you're like, what is that? Like, yeah.
And so, anyways, he's like, slow down, just stop what you're doing, get back to the hotel, and let's take a look at it. And so at this point, I'm like, how you try to make yourself feel a little better, but you start making yourself feel a little worse. You're like, oh, it could have been worse, but it could have been way better. Like, I don't know what happened. But then I tell myself, well, there's a bunch of arteries back there, so I might have just done it. I may have done it. And but anyways, it was a 20-minute drive back to the hotel that felt like it was a 4-hour drive. I'll say
that. The uncertainty starts kicking in. I felt the same way when I shot the 6x7 last year. I was like, I'm not finding this deer.
Man, what's it gonna go down? What's going down here? So we get back to the hotel and we put it up on
the laptop. No, there's something else happened first. I walked up to Carroll because I'm like vlogging with my GoPro. I'm like, Carroll's got a deer. He doesn't know like what happened. Like he said he only got 6 inches penetration, but I'm like, I think he got more. And then I walk up to Carroll and I unlock the door for him because he left his key. And I had the GoPro and I'm like pointing it at him. And he goes, he's like, not now. He's like, not now. And I'm like, all right. So I put the GoPro down.
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't mad, but I was just like, you got to realize that I am shaking, man. Like I am shaking.
And I'm thinking when we find this deer, it's gonna be awesome. Then when he sees his footage.
Didn't you see Mr. Next Year again after you shot paddles?
Oh yeah. So we'll hop into that. So I called Christian and I'm gonna set. I'm shaking, so I give myself a few minutes in the stand to calm down. And I hear some crunching, and I look back, and Mr. Next Year is coming back to the feeder. So he looks around, he almost goes up to the feeder, and he decides he's going to follow that same path that he just followed earlier, but he stopped. So he doesn't go to the feeder, and he starts walking back down that ravine. So at this point, I'm like, I am not touching my bow. I'm not doing nothing. I was like, I almost was like, no, not happening.
I don't know what happened. It just levitated into my hand. I don't know.
Yeah.
The release went off.
Well, by golly, boys, he didn't stop. He didn't stop this time. He came to me broadside 30 yards. And I sit there and videoed, and I was like, Christian, I remember thinking, you were so lucky to have me as a good friend.
Drew was lucky to have me as a good friend last episode.
I am such a good friend right now. But all I could think about is, I want the other deer.
You've already shot it. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I watch him pass. He finally gets downwind of me. He doesn't like blow and run off, but he knew. You could see in the video where he stopped. He kind of looked around. I said, he winded me. He winded me.
What,
That
what
was
I
when he was
love
like,
about Carroll's filming is he commentates. Like
Yeah,
he
he
gets
does.
right up next to the camera, and like if this was the microphone on it, he's like, "Here comes a nice doe," and like he's basically like, and he's like, "Oh, she sees me."
There was a thing in
You can hear it the
Kansas
whole
last
time.
year. I was rewatching some footage, and there was a looked to be a big
spike.
doe, but it was a little button buck, and he was like, oh, look at that big old girl, and like every step he was like, and then it like get up close, and he's like, thank God I didn't shoot that deer because that ended up being a buck. And then he zoomed in real tight. And he was like,
Commentating.
back to it, and you're just like, dude, yes.
It's so funny. You know exactly what happened because he's telling you the whole time.
Well, I like talking, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Dude, it's
But
so
yeah.
funny because the deer's 30 yards away and you're like, he sees me. You're like talking.
Well, he didn't see me, but he knew I was
Hey, go
like,
get your bigger brother. I'll be back here.
I said he winded me, and as soon he winded me a little bit, and he like kind of not like ran off, but kind of started, I think, faster walking off. But I was like, dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. So I go to grab my stuff. You know, I have a bow hanger that I just threw in my bag that swindles around for right now because I was just hanging hunting, and I just threw stuff in a bag. I didn't get all my gear, but I go to grab my
I think
bag.
that's how everybody's first couple of hunts go, though. They just throw everything. It's like, I hope I got everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But anyways, I have my bow, my bag, and everything on this tree hanger, and I go to grab my bag. Well, remember, we're not in a tree that goes straight up. The tree angle is like this. So I have it swindled to one side, and it swindles around to the other side. When I touch my bag, bow slides off, hops off, hits the ground. Bow fell out of the tree. I'm like, that sucks, but I've already shot, so it is what it is. I'm only like, it probably didn't fall, but like 8 foot. It also fell, and it fell in grass. It wasn't like rocks or anything hard. It didn't hit hard, so I wasn't too worried about it. But yeah, to sum it up, it was the best but worst hunt of my life. The best hunt
It's a
and the
great way
worst
to
hunt
put
of
it.
my life.
I mean,
Where-
you've seen roughly 300 inches of bone
yeah,
that morning. So
yeah, I did. But anyways, we get back to the hotel. We end up getting the footage pulled up on Christian's laptop, and we go to take a look at the shot. And at this point, my heart, like you could probably see my shirt moving. My heart was pounding so bad because I'm like, please don't be mad. Please don't be mad. Please don't be mad. Because it was like the distance wasn't bad. The angle was just a horrendous shot. And I knew the first question was he's going to ask, why did you take that shot with our quartered away? And it's just like, I just rushed it. He sat there. I thought I could do it. But anyways, we pull it up, see the shot. Looks good. Goes a little left. The arrow actually goes all the way through and hits the fletchings. So this arrow goes through the butt, and like the angle was what it would have been was the angle was so quartered away that it hit him in the right butt, but it would have popped out his front left shoulder. He wasn't like walking straight away. It was still a doable shot.
like in front of the shoulder or behind the
It would have been
opposite
behind.
shoulder?
It would have been
Okay.
behind the opposite shoulder. It wasn't like so like this
Yeah.
is an impossible shot. I'm taking an impossible shot. No, it was a very doable shot. I pulled it. It's as simple as that. I pulled the shot. And it was a good angle that it was like I hit the back hip, I hit guts, maybe liver, maybe lung, maybe the left side lung. It was 27, 28 inches of arrow that went through the steer.
But the thing is, obviously people don't want to do this and make that shot, but like you had the perfect arrow set up for that situation to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I did, and I'm thankful that it even gave me a shot for it. I mean, if I was shooting anything else, it would have maybe made it through the back leg. I would have maybe got like 6 to 8 inches of arrow penetration, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't shooting a fixed blade.
Yeah.
But yeah, we looked at the footage, and Christian, I just remember that big old smile and that high five because he was like, hey, this deer is 100% dead. Like, dude, you put 27, 28 inches of arrow through this deer, through his back hip, through his guts, maybe hit liver, maybe even hit a lung. You got so much arrow in him. Like it went through this deer. But when this deer goes to take off to run away, he actually pushes the arrow, some of it back out. So he cut some stuff coming back out. So he's got 20, 21 inches of arrow still left in him, and he's running away. Like I said, he runs to the east, comes back north of me. I watch him for a little bit. He's slow walking. So at this point, it's a text everybody, watch this video. What do you think? And between us all, we probably talked to 20
More than
20 or
that.
25 people, and every single person was like, hey, half the people are like, you may have hit the artery. I'm like, no, I didn't hit the artery. I would have saw blood. We didn't hit the artery. But everyone's like, oh, it's a 100% fatal shot. You hit him in the guts. Like he's gut shot, maybe liver. He might have already been dead. He might have been dead by the time he got out of that stand. So yeah, it was just the unknown. But every single person, I want full, truth and transparency of like, what do you actually think? Out of 25 people, one person said, I don't know. And the other person, one person was just like, hey, there's no telling. I don't think he's dead, but I don't know. So, 2 out of 25 were really the non-optimistic people. And I was like, I'd rather give it to you. Rather you give it to me straight. So all day I'm running that, scenario through my head. Like the only thing I could have really done different is wait till he turned more broadside. But was he going to? And that's what really stinks is you just never know. Was he going to? Was he going to do what Mr. Next Year did? Was he only going to be at the feeder for 2 or 3 minutes and then turn and walk away? But I learned a very valuable lesson that it's just not worth just slinging an arrow. And I didn't just sling an arrow. It was I had 100% confidence, and to be honest, I'd take that shot again if he gave it to me. I still have confidence, but we waited all day. We gave that deer, 11 hours, 10 or 11 hours.
Yep.
I thought, okay, we're going to do this right. I couldn't give it a day or two because I had to get back to work. There's stuff I have to get back to. So we did everything we possibly could, to the book with what we were given.
Called the dog.
Yeah, we called a dog in, showed the guys the shots, and they were like, oh, it's he's dead. Just how far did he run? He's gonna die. Is he dead now? But how far did he run before he died if he is dead is the real question. So we took I think we got out there officially at like 7 p.m. That gave us about an hour of daylight. To look around for this deer. And I thought, well, we're going to look for him. We have dogs. We'll look for him after dark, whatever we need to do. So we get out there, and I remember thinking, all right, my confidence start going down a little bit, when we start going out there. Cause I'd watched that video of that replay 200 times, easily 200 times, or there wasn't a single time in my mind after getting it blown up. I was like, he's going to die. Where's he going to die at? So we get the dogs out there, and right off the bat, I was like, okay, they'd say, take me to where you last see him. So I was like, okay, no problem. Walked up there to that tree where he was about 80, 90 yards away. And the guy was like, hey, here's blood right here. It's not a lot, but here's blood. We're going to be on him. We're going to get his scent here. So at this point, we go down in this ravine, and this is when it starts getting really spooky of, hey, this grass is 10 foot tall. And
that's like the worst case scenario.
You could not see 5 foot in front of you.
There was one point where Carroll was walking with his bow, and he had his hand above his head with his bow, and I could barely see the tip of his bow. And he was walking to the grass. Like it was over his head and his outstretched arm.
Yeah. And it was like, at that point, I was like, okay, he's going to be up here within 100 yards. And if we don't find this deer within 100 yards, we're not finding him. And so we kept walking and walking and walking. And this guy was like, hey, we're on the trail right here for sure. I'm going to have you all stand back. That way it doesn't confuse the dog. So we get up there about probably like 60 to 70 yards, and we have to re-roll it because I think the dog loses the trail. We get up there where it's very, very thick cedar, very tall grass, just like, oh my gosh, dude, if we don't walk upon this deer and we don't kick him, we're not finding him. So we stayed a little far back, let the dogs do their work. And they get rolling, and to sum up a little bit of tracking the deer, we get in there, we get about 100 to 120 yards away from where I originally shot him or last saw him, before I originally last saw him. And the guy was super cool with the dogs. He was straight up honest, like, hey, this is the last place that I know for sure my dog was on him, but from here on out, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, do what you need to do. just pretty much just say, hey, try your best. We'll stand back. We'll let you guys work for a little bit. I'm going to wrap around on the outsides and see if I can just see him out in the open field. While we do that. But yeah, we got 120 yards in, and it was like, well, the deer could have ran left, he could have ran right, he could have went, we just don't know. We don't know where this deer went after that. We thought we found a little thicket of bedding where we last saw him, and he was like, hey, he was here because my dogs are going crazy. There was actually 2 dogs. The other guy was saying, my dog's going crazy here too. The deer was here. Now, maybe we don't know when and what the situation is, but this is where we think last. I'm going to let the dog keep taking me somewhere, and we'll see if we stumble upon him, but I don't know if it's his trail or not. So I was like, all right, yeah, sweet, do it. And we got to where we were out there for a little while, and we couldn't find it, and it was just time, because when I say you had to kick the deer to find them, it really was unfortunate, but it was getting late. It was past dark. We'd been out there for a few hours, and I just finally told the guys, like, hey, we got to wrap it up. Hate to say it, but we'll just have to come back in and find them after season. Or if somebody else shoots a deer, in there, and we get our deer out of there, we'll come back and do what we can while that grass is still dead. But unfortunately, we couldn't find him. But he's dead somewhere out there.
I've been using the new Exodus Rival cell camera for the last couple months, and I have found a beautiful mainframe 8-point with tons of stickers to go after this fall.
Ooh.
One thing I do appreciate about Exodus trail cameras is all of the cameras share the same data plan, so you only pay for what you need. A lot of cell cam companies charge you for HD pictures. I've seen prices of $5 for 50 HD pics. Exodus is going to give you unlimited HD pictures right to your phone, which is awesome when you're sitting there in the middle of the summer and it's 100 degrees and you just want to binge a bunch of trail cam photos.
If you're looking for a solid cell camera with great performance and a 5-year no BS warranty, go check them out. So as we all know, hunting deer is something people can make way too complicated. Arrows can be the exact same way. Instead of going down all those rabbit holes trying to sift through the endless information that's online and you're not really sure if it's right or wrong, Exodus makes it simple to get the right arrow for your exact setup.
So go online to the Exodus Arrow Builder. It takes less than a minute. You're going to enter your draw weight, your draw length, and how heavy of a point you're shooting. And it's going to be that simple. Let the guys at Exodus take care of the rest.
So if you're interested in Exodus Rival cell cameras or a new set of their MMT arrows, just go to exodusoutdoorgear.com and use code HA15 for 15% off anything on the website.
Once again, that is exodusoutdoorgear.com. Use code HA15 at checkout for 15% off. Now let's get back to the podcast.
So do you think it was a case of maybe he was still alive and he accidentally got bumped from the bed? Or do you think it was a case of he just kept going, like right after the shot? Because typically, I know we have a small sample size from like all of our experience combined, but when you hit a deer in the gut or something, you would think that they only go like 100, 150 yards and then they want to bed down.
You could have bumped him out of that bed with those dogs immediately, though.
Like, yeah, that is true.
Like he could have been in that bed like right then and been like, all right, I'm out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I said, we gave it, 11 hours to where it was like, should we have waited till the next day? If we could have, yes. Come to find out that next day, Christian and we stayed overnight after we couldn't find him. And I was like, hey, we're going to go back and look for him tomorrow morning. We should have done this in the first place. But I've got to stay and I've got to try. Maybe we did bump him out of the bed. Now, we never found blood or anything. We gave him 11, 12 hours. Maybe that was the case. My heart and my gut says after watching him, he just kept walking. I think that he just kept walking after I shot him because he wasn't walking super, super slow. He was walking a little slower than normal. He kind of had his butt tucked in, like, oh, I'm hurting. I'm hitting the guts. But, dude, he was just sitting out there when I saw him to the north of me after I shot him. He's just, like, licking his lips and just kind of looking around like, what the heck just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what just happened? So, yeah, my gut and my heart just says, hey, I kept walking. I'm not trying to psych myself out, because some people are going to tell themselves that, whoa, I don't want to tell myself I bumped him out of his bed while we were trying to track him. But I don't think we did. I truly don't think we did. Well, we end up going back or on our way to go back to look for him the next morning. And it turns out that a storm's coming in. And down there, it's not so much, it's not about the blood, but it's the getting in and out of that property. Because when I say it is 6 miles of sand, it's not just dirt, it's like sand that you got to drive on to get back there. It was going to be just a mud pit. It wasn't just a little storm. It was gonna rain for a few hours, and there was just going to be no getting back there, getting in and out. You're going to get stuck. There's just no way. If it rains a little bit, you'll get stuck back there.
Well,
So-
because I tried to go fill a feeder one time back there when after it rained, and I run my 4-wheel drive. That there was so much mud caked in my 4-wheel drive and stuff that I had to like pay $1,600 to get it fixed.
But you're also driving a Ford, so that's understandable.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Fair play.
But yeah, pretty much just to sum it up, we decided, hey, like, we're gonna find the deer. We're gonna make it a mission to find that deer. He's a good one. Here's what I have to tell myself to get over him. He's not gonna be the biggest deer I ever shoot. He's gonna be the biggest 8-point that I've ever shot, but he's not gonna be the biggest deer that I shoot. So it's really unfortunate. It stinks. It's a lot of, I'll say this, I put a lot of time in practicing, and that was my moment to shine, and I blew it. But it's not over yet. So I think we're going to find him. I truly do, because at either the end of the year or after season, I know I have a really good group of guys behind me, so I can get quite a few people to go down there, and we're just going to walk that out, and we're gonna find that deer.
You'll have a reason to go shed hunt this time.
Yeah, I will spend all of my time that weekend, if I have to, finding that deer.
Yeah. What did you learn in these situations? Because like these sort of podcasts are not the most fun ones to have, because it's like reflective on that sort of situation. And I'm glad we weren't doing the podcast a ton in 2020, because I would have had several reasons to reflect. And it happens to everybody. But what did this situation in particular like teach you?
Patience. Patience is the biggest thing. I got in my own head of, I watched Mr. Next Year come in and do it, and I assumed that next year was going to do exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bad assumption, and the thing that really stinks is I could have come back any other weekend to hunt that deer, but I rushed a shot. On October 2nd, I rushed a shot. It's October 2nd. I have till January 15th. I had plenty of time. So just next time, I told myself right after, I called everybody, I was like, I will not shoot a deer unless he is broadside ever again, because that hurts. That really, really hurts to know he's dead. The deer is dead, I think. But now I feel horrible, because it's like, well, I don't want to waste the meat. That's the biggest thing that hurts, is like, hey, I'm out here. I owe it to the deer. I don't want to waste the meat. And again, it kind of hurts the pride with him being a good one a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the biggest thing I learned is patience. You're always going to have, he's not going to be the biggest deer. I have plenty of time. He's going to give me another shot at some point, and I just rushed it. I'll feel a little better though when we do find him. So
yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I know. There's people that I've heard people on social media say like, "Oh, I'd rather hit one and have a chance than straight up miss one." And I'm like, not me.
Yeah,
I would rather whiff.
Yeah,
at least then you're like, I could get another
100%.
shot. It sucks when you hit one, because you're like, all right, now I'm not going to get another shot because I probably killed him.
Well, there's that, and I know it sounds bad, but kind of like, hopefully I'm not the only one that thinks this way, because I would feel really bad if so.
I'll cancel you. No problem. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we can edit this out, I guess. But kind of thinking back through that, it's like, if you shoot one and you hit it and you don't think it's a fatal shot, it's like now you basically have to blow this whole area out to try to look for that deer. So basically, let's say you have another hit lister buck that's in that area, and maybe you wanted to fill your second tag on it, or maybe you're sharing a lease with somebody else. Now you've kind of just put a damper on, like tracking that deer. And especially if you don't find it, it's like, I just now screwed up two ways in a sense. And so you kind of run into that predicament. Like, okay, do I keep looking for this deer? Like, let's say you want to look for it in season. Do I keep looking for this deer, or do you, just back out and like wait till the end of season, like Carroll was saying? You know what I mean? Like, obviously after the the meat goes bad, like that's kind of like a, obviously a sign to wait till the end of the season to go look for that deer again. But that's just something that I would struggle with 100%.
Yes and no. I agree with you, but if I shoot a deer, I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, the meat in the freezer to feed not only me, but friends and family. That's what I'm going after. A bigger rack is what I want to, but it doesn't always have to be that. I personally feel like I owe it. I don't care about blowing the bedding out,
Right. Like
anything like that.
And I'm not even saying that. I'm just talking about like obviously you're going to do your due diligence and look for that deer as hard as you can. But there's that thought that creeps in my mind. Like even if I shoot a doe in one of my better spots, I'm like, and I can't really find her like in the first 150 yards. I'm like, I know another 100 yards up here, that's a bedding area.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really hope I find her before then, because, you have that devil on your shoulder. Like, man, you don't want to go in there. You don't want to go in there. But obviously you're going to, like, I mean, you made up your mind. So if you shoot the deer, I mean, whether it be your perfect track job or not, like you're going to do it. But I'm just saying, like, that is something I think about.
Yeah. If the meat's bad, then yeah, I mean, there's no point in going in there and doing it. But like I said, within that 12, 24-hour window, it's like, no, I don't care if there's 180-inch deer in here. Like I shot a deer. I shot a deer. I owe it. So
yeah, you kind of I think about it really simply too. It's like when you shoot a deer, you've already made the decision. Like anything that has to happen to find it, because like I know if I shot one on lease, I'd be like, dude, sorry, like we had to look for this deer for multiple days or whatever. And it's just like the other person that you're hunting with, you just have to be like, hey, when a deer is shot, the priority is finding this deer. I don't care if we have to run every other deer out of here to find it, which it sucks because you shoot that deer and then you're like, all right, there's 150 something incher in here living right here, and we're going to like jump them out of here. But to each, like, whatever, it is what it is. And I did the same thing to Carroll last year, though. When
I know, I was just about to say, man, you called me and you're like, hey, I shot it. I just wanted to call and apologize. I'm like, dude, I don't give a crap what you do in there. Like, go find your deer, dude. Like, go find him. We got 3 more months. He'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with you. I think we'll find him. It's not how you want to find him, but man, bow hunting's humbling. Like you were saying, like you get so much confidence from the summer and from reps and all this stuff, and then like the moment of truth comes, and like it's just easy to make bad decisions or just like make rush decisions. Like deer will make you, I don't know. I've made 99% of my bad decisions bow hunting of like out of like a time, like, oh, my window's closing. It's happening. Like I have to do it now. But I'm with you.
Yep, it's unfortunate, but I learned. I hope this was my slap to the face. My main humbling bow hunting experience for my life. I hope it is.
Well, I will say, if there's any like haters out there that say, oh, you shouldn't have made a bad shot, you probably haven't hunted long enough then, because it will happen. A deer will walk in that'll make you say, oh, damn. And then, I mean, it'll just turn your world upside down. So, I mean, so where do you plan on going from here? Like, obviously that's kind of a kick in the nuts, but what's your next step?
I mean, man, my next step was I pouted. I told myself, you have one day, pout all you want, but tomorrow, zip it. No more. You're not gonna be too hard on yourself. So I took my one day and I pouted on the whole way home. I called people, I have a really uplifting group of friends and family around me. Sometimes, first things first, my family's like, oh, you shot it in the butt. Nice going, and then afterwards they were all like, hey man, it's cool. Like it has happened to every single person in my family that hunts. It happens. But I got home, and within an hour of me being home, I went out there and I shot my bow. And of course, I shot the best I'd shot in a long time, and that frustrated me. I can only practice at 20 yards here at the house, and I was driving a quarter at 20 yards, within a few arrows. I only shot 6 arrows, and every single arrow I could hit a quarter with, where it's a little frustrating, but going, steps from here is just to keep practicing and just keep telling myself like, hey, my shot wasn't bad. It was the shot selection. The shot selection is something it's easily fixed. I can easily fix that. If a deer just doesn't give me a shot, just don't shoot. The hardest part is actually hitting the animal, getting a good shot, not getting the jitters and all that. I mastered that right there that day. That day I did. I'm not saying I mastered it forever, but I did good on that. Just 3 inches away, 3 inches. If I was aiming for its heart, would have been in the shoulder or it would have been in the lungs if he was broadside, But yeah, just keep practicing and mainly just have a short memory. Just act like that just never happened is what I'm going to do. When it comes down to go look for them, I'll act like it happened. I'll put my my looking shoes on, but I'm just going to have a short memory is all I can pretty much do.
You have to. That's the best way forward. And when you shoot the next one, it's not going to hurt any less, but you'll be like, okay, I've redeemed myself. I'm back on the right path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've told myself like all for the last 2 months, like, man, if something steps out in front of me, it's dead because I am on one right now. And it was a little humbling, but at the same time, I got my swagger back,
Oh, you got the stash.
I got the swagger back where if one steps out, I tell myself, if he even gives me a broadside shot within 40 yards, 40 is my cutoff where with this heavy arrow that I'm shooting, I probably won't shoot over 40. But if one steps within 40, I'm telling myself again, he's done.
So what's your plan for this weekend? The cold front coming in.
We're going to go back. I'm going to go back to the lease.
Are you shooting does or like it's my turn on the lease or what are you going to
do? Well, I'll see you out there Friday morning then. No, we don't have the right wind until Friday. I was going to go up actually tomorrow was when I was going to go up, but I looked at the wind and I don't have a good wind till Friday. So I'm going to head out of work a little early on Friday, maybe even try to hunt Friday evening, depending on the wind. Friday evening, try to get a Friday evening, Saturday, Saturday morning, evening, and then a Sunday. Go back down to the lease. We're going to set in the big buck down stand where I'm going to set. I'm going to leave that north side alone because to be completely honest, if I heart shot at a deer, if I didn't have good blood, you can't find a deer there. Depending on where it runs, you can't find a deer.
It's hard enough to find them when you know exactly like where they went and you can see.
Yeah, I'm terrified. That has like ruined me, I think, from that spot of if you even heart punch a deer, are you going to find them if you don't have awesome blood? So
you will. I'll get my tractor and I'll start mowing all that grass down until I hear.
Yeah, found him in the tractor tire. But yeah, I will. I'll go back down to the big buck down stand, and we have a few. Our wide one. Hopefully, I don't know if you can throw a picture, on here for them. I don't know if you can do that, but the wide one we strolled back through the other day, and he's the number one on my hit list. I want him so badly to where he's a big frame deer. So just hoping that he passes by one time.
So I got to ask though, if you see Mr. next year, is he getting whopped or no?
Yeah. If he shows back up on camera, I will do everything in my power to go and harvest him because he's probably not living a very good life right now with the arrow in him.
Are you talking about paddles or Mr. Next Year?
Oh,
no, I'm talking about Mr. Next Year.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about paddles. Mr. Next Year, I don't know. That's a talk that Christian and I'll have to talk, but no, probably not. I think I passed him twice, so I think I could pass him again.
He's one of those deer. I'm just like, you're laying in your bed at June 15th and you get a picture of him the next year as a 5-year-old and you're like, that's a 180-inch deer. Like, I really do think he could be that kind of deer. Now that Carroll's already got the hard part out of the way, he already passed him like once or twice. That he knows now, but I wouldn't be opposed to somebody shooting him either. It'd be very hard not to.
I mean, that's a big deer.
If he's at the feeder broadside, I will give a Christian a text. With my commentary, I will snap him a picture. I'll say yes or no. Need to know right now.
I think you need to figure that out before you go in.
Yes. No, I'm going to give him a shot.
Carroll.
I'm not going to have service.
That's one extra step. That's one extra step you're going to have to do. And let me If
To
it
be
were me,
completely honest,
that's enough time for me to absolutely go from this to this. You know what I mean?
honestly, probably not. Like in all seriousness, probably not. But I don't know. I don't know. I'll say this: if it's before rifle season, let's just hope that nobody
That is
sees
true
that deer.
though. Like
Well, I'm just praying to God that no one else sees that deer,
I
because no
understand
one
that.
else will pass him. No one else will pass that deer.
That's the thing, but also as of right now, so he's probably about a 150. You all still have yet to run trail cameras through November there. So
Yep.
it
And
would
we're
also
already
be
getting new deer
very
showing up.
Yeah,
it would
we already have
2 or 3 new ones.
2 or 3 newer ones. Yeah, we have one that this
there
deer
could be a
is.
swamp donkey come through. So you just need to keep that in mind. Like I don't think it would be bad for one of you all to save like hard on rut. Like if you throw a decoy out there, it might get destroyed type of hunt, you know. Like that would be really cool. Especially if they're like not pressured or anything like that. You throw a decoy and we'll actually be able to see how a deer is supposed to act to a decoy. Like that would be bad to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know, like, we have that deer that we were all at the wedding together Saturday, and I showed you that picture, Christian, Sunday morning of that deer, and you said, "Please don't shoot that one." I think that deer is 3.5, maybe 4.5, and he's probably 140. He's close to 140-inch deer,
Go ahead and pop up a picture. I haven't seen it.
and I'll show you after.
Okay.
That deer is. He's going to be the 160. I don't know if he's an 8-point.
Is this on the lease still?
He's not going to be 160, but
He's a 9-pointer.
He might be a 150-inch deer next year.
Hold on, let me go full screen. Oh, dude. I would Christian, you know, I would absolutely mollywop that thing. The frame on it,
I think it's a 3-year-old.
I think he's 3.5, and he's close to, I don't know if he's 140, but
that's sad. That deer's only gonna live till 3 then. Dude, you get a frame like that. I think I'd rather have a big wide frame rather than like 20 points going up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like
even you see Mr. Next Year in front of your face at 30 yards.
True, but I haven't.
Like,
but
oh gosh.
I love me a wide deer, dude. I love it. I think that's the number one characteristic in a deer.
Here's Carroll's other arch nemesis.
That's the one.
He's
the
so
one
mature too.
I don't.
That deer is 20. I think he's 21 inches wide.
I don't see much of a difference besides body wise on the racks.
No, the body. Yeah, that's the only difference. That body's 60 pounds.
You guys got so many good deer. That's crazy, dude. I would knowing that. Then I would wait. I would wait on Mr. Next Year then. 100%. If you have deer like that, like, dude, come on.
There's so many that we could be happy with that are just slightly smaller.
Right.
That's the thing.
No. Yeah, I completely agree. And that's also where I'm like, hey, Mr. Next Year, I saw him at 30 yards. And it's just like,
I bet.
I have how many? I got one more tag.
Carroll thought about paying me the rest of the lease like I did Drew. He was thinking about writing me a check.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I'm like, Payton Carroll, do not grab that bow.
It'll levitate. It'll draw itself back. It'll shoot itself.
It's a big old boy.
Elon Musk bow.
Boy.
Yeah.
That's it. That was the best, but it turned out it was the worst hunt of my life. No, it was the best and the worst hunt of my life at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be after it this weekend. Jake and I are going to Public this weekend to try to absolutely hammer down on some deer.
Not try to. We will hammer down.
Lord willing. It's going to be
but Lord willing, I'm pretty sure we're in a good spot. So
Lord willing, with the weather that we got coming and the 2 spots we're going, I think there will be blood, as the people say. So I'm ready. I'm ready for this weekend. I want to go to sleep and wake up and it be in the stand again.
So Carol, let me ask you these: are those 2 deer that Christian showed me, are they pretty consistent, or are they like brand new?
Neither deer are consistent.
You just got like one picture of them?
No. The wide one has probably got like 4 or 5. He's once every 2 or 3 weeks on that one camera only. He's hit the feeder twice.
I put my money on a cold front though.
when
he was there like a couple days ago
yeah,
on the feeder.
yeah, we've got him twice on the feeder, and I'm telling you, if he comes in, it is no questions asked. Right, he's my number one. He's a good one.
Yep.
I got a good feeling, boys.
Me too. Hey, there's gonna be blood this weekend. I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, hey, if you guys enjoyed the podcast and enjoy the stories, don't ever say that we don't share the good with the bad and the ugly, because we do. And I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. And this is not the last chapter of this story. I feel like another chapter of this book is going to be written this weekend. So I hope it is. And if you guys enjoy the episodes, make sure to leave us a rating and review. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Jesus loves you.
Time
Bye.
to eat, boys.
Thank you guys so much for checking out the Hunter's Advantage podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next episode.